It's a short week for the Denver Broncos and Indianapolis Colts as both teams look to bounce back from divisional losses on Sunday. Coming up on Broncos Weekend, Steve Atwater and Orlando Franklin will discuss which injuries on both teams will have the biggest impact this week. James Palmer from the NFL Network will share the national perspective of this game and what he thinks the Broncos need to do to get their third straight win at home. And finally, we'll examine some of the key matchups you should keep a close eye on Thursday night under the lights at Power Field at Mile High. Broncos Weekend starts right now. Everyone, and thanks for joining us for a special Wednesday edition of Broncos Weekend as we get you set for the Broncos Thursday night football matchup against the Indianapolis Colts on Prime Video. I'm Alexis Perry, thrilled to be joined by the dynamic duo of Steve Atwater and Orlando Franklin. Guys, these teams have just had 3 days to rest, reset, and prepare for one another. So Orlando, as someone who has played in a Thursday night football matchup, how difficult is this week in terms of preparation?
It's a nightmare. You know, as a former player that has had to do this every single year of my career, it is a nightmare. You get these schedules way in advance, right, before you even head to training camp. And we would look for that Thursday night game, and it's just like, man, we got to play 2 of these things in 5 days. Yeah. From a preparation standpoint, there is no seeing the defense. It's like you are a separated football team this week on the practice field. Offense is on one field, defense is on the other. The defensive looks that you're going to see that Indianapolis poses each and every week, it's the backup of offensive players that are giving you those looks. Everybody's out there in hats because it can't be physical. You're still banged up trying to figure out, you know, how am I going to feel when this game starts here in a couple days. But it is an absolute nightmare because you go into this game and you know you're nowhere near 100% going into it.
Yeah, well, I've never played in a Thursday night game. I didn't have to go through that big old, but I can imagine how difficult it is to prepare with such a short time frame, knowing that you just finished playing as well. I mean, normally Tuesdays, that's the day off. Now Tuesdays are like Wednesdays in terms of this is supposed to be one of the harder practices. So difficult adjustment, but hey, right now I think every team has to do it. So hey, we'll make do. We'll be good.
The Broncos injury report this week is worrisome given there's not much time to recover. And for running back Javonte Williams, he's got a long road to recovery after suffering a season-ending knee injury Sunday in Vegas. Guys, what was your reaction when you heard the news, and how does this impact the offense moving forward?
Man, my heart goes out to him. He's got a long road back, but guess what? So many players have done it. The technology is much better these days, so he can have a full recovery. I don't know if it'll be 100% by next year or not. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But I can't see him coming back having a full recovery and being the same Javonte Williams that he is today. I've seen that from Saquon Barkley in New York. He's made a great comeback. He's the old Saquon now.
Look at what happened with Jamal Murray with the Denver Nuggets. It was over 550 days before he got back out there on the basketball court. When you look at the running back position, it's a lot like a basketball player because you can make 2 or 3 cuts behind the line of scrimmage before you even get past the line of scrimmage. Right. At wide receiver, you're making 2 or 3 cuts during the whole play. So I'm hoping Javonte Williams will be what he once was in the National Football League, but I want us to just be cautious of the recovery time and not rush him back. So when he does finally get out there, that he could be his old self again.
I agree.
The Denver Broncos, they acted really quickly, signing Latavius Murray off the Saints practice squad. What does he add to that running backs room that is already filled there with Melvin Gordon and Mike Boone?
Man, he's a very hard runner, a big back. He's probably as tall as Melvin Gordon is, 6'3", 225, 230 pounds. And man, he's a very hard runner, has a nose for first downs and touchdowns, and he makes it very difficult for defenses.
Yeah, he brings that chemistry. You know, Latavius Murray was there in Minnesota when George Paton was there. So, you know, George Paton is very familiar with this guy. So, you know, he's not going to be an issue in the locker room. This young football team do not need anybody like that. But when you get in the red area, he has a knack for the end zone. He has over 50 touchdowns in his career. So I could see the Broncos easily implementing him in a short week on Thursday and say, hey, you know what? I know you don't know the terminology and how we're calling plays here, but this specific play is this footwork.
It'd be like backyard football.
Exactly, right? Being that he's played 9 years in the National Football League, outside zone footwork is outside zone. Inside zone is inside zone. Counter footwork is counter footwork. So it's going to be a lot more on Russell Wilson's plate when you're in the huddle, when he's in the game. But at the same time, he is a very exciting football player to watch and could get in the end zone. And he's proven it time and time again.
Where does this put Devine Ozigbo, the running back who is on the practice squad?
I think the proof is in the pudding. You just said, hey, Latavius Murray, let's go, right? Latavius is a 9-year NFL vet. Devine Ozigbo could possibly get active this week, but that will be more of a special teams role. You needed immediate help in this backfield, so that's why you went and got a veteran guy like Murray.
On the defensive side, Denver will be without Randy Gregory, who was off to a stellar start to this season. He will miss at least 4 games with a knee injury suffered Sunday in Las Vegas. How can this defense sustain the kind of production he was having coming off the edge?
I don't know. I mean, Randy Gregory in 3.5 games has forced 2 fumbles. So that has been excellent from that standpoint, being able to take away the ball. But I anticipate we're going to get a heavy dosage of Baron Browning. And what I'm really excited about is I've seen the pass rush moves, and I just am eager to see what this guy could do. Broncos are in a very unique situation right now. Bradley Chubb is playing on that 5th-year option, and Bradley Chubb is playing really, really well. Might press himself into a shiny new contract. But if you're getting a guy like Baron Browning reps, and now you could also implement and sprinkle Nick Bonino in there, you know, you're helping develop some of these younger guys, all while knowing that Randy Gregory is going to come back at some point. Yeah. 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles caused by Randy Gregory this season so far. We're really going to miss that productivity. And also, the mindset that he has. He has a mindset of dominance when he's on the football field, and I think it's contagious to his teammates. So we're going to miss that, but I am anxious to see what Baron Browning can do stepping up. He hasn't been really rushing the passer a lot, been doing a great job of holding that edge, containing offense when they're trying to run the ball and get outside of them. So it's going to be a treat. It's a great opportunity for him to show what he can do.
Well, the Colts, they're not fully healthy heading into this game either. Their star running back, Jonathan Taylor, he tweaked his ankle Sunday against the Titans. So how does that impact the Colts?
That's great for the Broncos, right? I mean, this run defense was exposed. Let's just be honest. The Raiders exposed it, and we know that now every offensive coordinator in the league is looking at this defense, and they're going to come in with a mindset that we can run the football at will. If you don't have your star running back, you are probably going to get away from that run game as fast as possible if it's not having success. The Broncos defense need to make sure that they have great gap integrity when it comes to the run game. But this is a plus for the Broncos for sure. And I don't anticipate him playing at all. That's the problems with a short week. You know, not only is he banged up, but also you have to worry about how does he travel when you get on a flight?
Right.
How does he travel now when you land? Does it swell up? You know, does the altitude play a factor? So this is good. It's never good in football when somebody gets hurt, but this is good news for the Broncos defense this week.
Nyheim Hines, the second team running back, is a very capable running back. A little bit smaller than Jonathan Taylor, about 5'9", about 200, 205 pounds. Jonathan Taylor about 220. So he's still very shifty, and they may also activate Phillip Lindsay, Colorado's own.
Well, coming up on the other side of the break, James Palmer from the NFL Network will join me to give an overview of what we can expect this week on Thursday Night Football. Then a little bit later, Steve and Orlando will assess some of the key matchups between the Broncos and Colts. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Broncos Weekend, everyone. I'm Alexis Perry, happy to be joined by the NFL Network's James Palmer, here to give us the national perspective of this Thursday night football matchup between the Broncos and Colts. James, the last time these teams met was in 2019, and a lot has changed for both organizations since then. I think we're familiar with the big changes here in Broncos country, but what have been some of the key moves made in Indianapolis as of late? And what's your overall impression as to the state of the Colts right now, 1-2-1 this season?
Well, Alexis, they've had another new quarterback. That happens every year, right? I think this is 5 straight years we've had another new quarterback, and they've just gone through it, and that's been an issue. Nyheim Hines, their running back, said it this week, where it's just hard to get off to a good start as an offense when you keep having a new quarterback running your entire offensive system. Now, a slow start is nothing new to the Indianapolis Colts. I did their game against the Kansas City Chiefs there, where they actually got their first win of the season. They've had slow starts under Frank Reich in the past, and they've righted the ship as it goes on. What the Broncos want is for them not to right the ship, specifically offensively, against them. And that's been the biggest issue. It's been the run game. And they cannot run the football effectively when last year you had a guy in Jonathan Taylor who was hands down the best running back in all of football, wins the rushing title by a landslide, and you spend more money on your offensive line than any other team in football. yet they can't protect Matt Ryan as he continues to fumble the football repeatedly. 9 fumbles so far for Matt Ryan through these games, and they can't run the football effectively, which is the bread and butter of this entire offense. They run more run schemes than any other offense in the NFL, and that's what makes them so dynamic running the football. They just can't get anything going at all. What Denver wants to hope is this isn't the game that they start putting it together.
Well, this is the 26th series meeting between the Broncos and Colts. The Broncos enter this one as slight favorites. What was your biggest takeaway week 4 as the Broncos took on the Raiders?
The biggest takeaway was things kind of shifted, right? We saw a defense play out of their minds through the first 3 games, and then you see the Raiders come in and run the football really at will on them. And I think the one part that we might be overreacting in Broncos country is all offseason, what were we saying about this Raiders offense? Man, this is a chance to be an explosive offense. Right. And then they have an explosive offense, and everybody goes, oh my God, I can't believe you lost to the Raiders. I can't believe they ran for 200. They have a good offense. Like, they have good players. They have good pieces put together. I think what stood out to me is, once again, you're seeing the maturity and the growth of Pat Surtain, and the time that he spent against Davante Adams was lights out, incredible. I think by the end of the season, you're going to make the argument that he's the best cornerback already in football in his 2nd season. I think you can have a bad outing against the run. You can't have multiple ones. I thought Draymond Jones had a really great game in the middle of the defense, but I think offensively, you saw 1 good half and 1 terrible half. Yep. Just like happening in Indianapolis. A veteran quarterback in a new system that is learning and growing as it happens. I think this was a step in the right direction, but a bad loss that you didn't want to have happen.
Well, injuries are piling up for the Denver Broncos. We just learned Javonte Williams is out for the season. Who needs to step up in his place?
Melvin Gordon.
The obvious one.
The obvious one, yeah. Melvin Gordon. I know they bring in Latavius Murray, and I've known him for a long time and the stops that he's had, and he's been a good back in this league. But this really is focused on Melvin Gordon. And I think, obviously, the fumbles are just something that can't happen. It literally cannot happen. But he is a rhythm running back. He is a back that the more carries he gets, if he starts as, he started his entire career. 10 of his 98 career games, he hasn't started. So he starts and he gets into a rhythm, and he's kind of one of those rhythm backs. Not making an excuse, but this opportunity now with Javonte Williams out really sets up to the strengths that we've seen in Melvin Gordon in the past. He has a nose for the end zone. He just needs to get up over that hurdle. I think part of this is mental. Part of this is physical, like I said, with the rhythm. But, I mean, when they both split carries identically with 203 carries last year, and Melvin actually finishes with more rushing yards and more rushing touchdowns, this isn't a backup coming in to now carry the workload for your offense. This is a really good running back that's split time. Javonte's just a dynamite, game-changing type of talent that you're losing, specifically in all the ways they wanted to use him as the season went on in the passing game.
Well, in terms of the Broncos offense, we finally saw things starting to click, but then sputtered there late in the game, and they were unable to complete the comeback against the Raiders. What are some of the little tweaks this offense can make to really get over the hump this week against the Colts?
What the Colts defense has is they have a really good front 4, and that's why this offensive line needs to go out and play. You saw against Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes was holding onto the football a lot. That was mainly because of the games that the Colts are running up front, and they started confusing that Chiefs offensive line, the way they kind of ran some of those stunts. If you can hold that front 4, you're in a really good spot. Obviously, you have a star corner in Stephon Gilmore, but without Darius Leonard, or Shaquille Leonard, which he introduced himself to me the other day at the game. He was like, Darius, and I was like, and then he goes, I'm sorry, Shaquille. Like, he had to correct himself, which was a bit odd. But without him in the middle of that defense, he's the turnover king. If you look at what they did in terms of turning the football over last season, that's what was their bread and butter about why they played so well defensively. When he's not there, it changes things dramatically how they play as a defense. So if you can protect Russell Wilson with that front 4 and stop them, then you have a really good chance offensively.
Darius, or Shaquille, out with a concussion this week, of course. Okay, what is the #1 issue going on with the Colts right now that you think the Broncos can exploit this week to get the win?
Turnovers. And it's a shame that Randy Gregory is out of the game, because Matt Ryan can't hold on to the football. I mentioned it, 9 fumbles already this season. He's had 2 seasons, I believe, in his career, one with 12, one with 10. I mean, 9 fumbles is an astronomical number. Their turnover issues, I think they're second in the NFL in turnovers, is a massive problem. So you can exploit the issues that they have in terms of protecting the football, specifically in the pocket. That's why I meant Randy Gregory has been a strip sack master, right? That'd be the matchup that I was looking to see. But you got to get after Matt Ryan. We know how, let's just say it, he can't move at all. So collapse the pocket and get after him. And if you stop the run, you're going to force him to throw the football to a group of receivers that I think are a little underrated. But at the same time, there's no star out there receiver-wise, and they lack production out of the tight end spot.
What is the #1 key matchup you're looking for?
I would say the Broncos offensive line against this front, because if you can do two things, if you can run the football consistently against this group, obviously that's going to help you. We know that's the philosophy of this offense. And if you protect Russell Wilson, we're starting to see things click in the passing game a little bit, right? That chemistry with Jerry Jeudy's building a little bit. They'd like to use KJ Hamler more as they move forward. So I think that's, and we already know what the connection is with Courtland Sutton. So I do think if you protect Russell Wilson and be able to move that front four where you can run the football, I think the Broncos should win the game.
Well, James, thank you so much for the time. I know you have a big game coming up on Thursday. You'll be there.
Oh, I'll be there. I'll be there. 2 games this week. I'm excited.
NFL Network coverage, of course, from James Palmer. Coming up here after the break, Orlando and Steve will be back to take a deeper dive into some of the other matchups you should be looking for on Thursday. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Broncos Weekend, everyone. I'm Alexis Perry alongside Steve Atwater and Big O. Guys, James mentioned which matchup he's looking forward to most on Thursday. So now I have to get your thoughts on a few others that might have a huge impact on this game. So let's go ahead and start with the signal callers, Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan. I think it's safe to say that Wilson is coming off his best game as a Bronco, but this team still came up short of getting the dub over their AFC West rivals. So what are some of the ways that you'd like to see this offense get more creative, or some of the players you think could help jumpstart that side of the ball?
We saw Russ get a little bit more active this past week with his legs. We saw him run the zone read in the red area, and I'm looking forward to a little bit more of that. Maybe mixed in with a little bit of RPO as well. But I think what you really have to do offensively to get this thing jump-started is get Jerry Jeudy going early. Nice little slant, and let him use those legs and show off that athleticism in space.
Yeah, I like that very much. I honestly think the creativity has been there, but the distribution hasn't really been, I think, the way we want to see it. The first game we came out, we had a ton of targets to the running backs, and then that dropped off significantly over the last several weeks. I like to see them continue to get that ball to, now it's going to be Melvin Gordon, Latavius Murray, Divino Zigbo, whoever it is.
Yeah.
Try to get the ball in their hands some to kind of loosen up the defenses. And then, hey, we got to go back to Albert O as well. Albert O is still a great tight end, and when he catches balls, his run after the catch is one of the best, I think, in the business at the tight end position. And then, like you said, spreading that ball around to the wide receivers, getting Jerry Jeudy more touches. Although he had a 100-yard game, Courtland, he had one, and then he got like a 97-yard game. So, we got the guys to do it. We have the players, but I think the thing, again, I've been saying this every week, that's been holding us back is penalties. We had another 7 penalties this past week, and with those penalties, that's going to set us back every single time. And we got to clear that up. And I think the creativity, the production, the success, all of that will come along with it.
Well, now as we look to a couple of guys that Russell Wilson and Matty Ice may look to in order to move the ball downfield, a couple of big 6'4" playmakers in Courtland Sutton and Michael Pittman Jr. Guys, Courtland, he is off to his best start of his career with Russell Wilson as quarterback. So what are some of the ways that you can see the Colts trying to limit him this week, and how does he overcome those?
Well, I would say they're going to do what we're going to do. They put their best cornerback on him, Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore has had success with New England Patriots, and now he's doing the same thing here with the Indianapolis Colts. 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, playmaker, 27 interceptions in his career. And I've seen him shut guys down, take guys completely out of their game. Big guys, small guys, short guys, tall guys. He's done it to all of them. So I think that would be the strategy if you're looking to try to shut down Courtland Sutton. Now, the thing is, though, what if they get the ball to Jerry Jeudy? What if Jerry Jeudy is our hot guy for the day? So I don't think teams can just say, all right, we're going to take one guy away. We have several guys. And I don't think he can take Courtland Sutton all the way out of the game anyway.
What Stephon Gilmore has done really well in his career is he's been very comfortable at getting up close to these bigger wide receivers, pressing them and jamming them at the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
If I'm Courtland Sutton, that's all I'm focused on this week. I know it's walkthrough, but how are you going to beat press coverage when a cornerback is trying to get his hands on you? That's what Stephon Gilmore does really well. I anticipate him, if Courtland is having a day now, to travel with Courtland and try to bring the physicality to him. So I know Courtland has the size, has the speed, has all of the tools to be successful, but I truly believe it's all about how he gets off the line of scrimmage this week in order to continue to have success and to continue to put up career numbers like he has until this point.
Well, for the Colts, like I mentioned, Michael Pittman Jr., the Titans, they were able to hold him to just 3 catches and 31 yards. So what can the Broncos pull from that defensive game plan that the Titans had and apply this Thursday?
Like I said, PS2. That's the only thing you got to say. PS2 on Michael Pittman. You saw what he did, every top receiver, even Devontae Adams last week. A lot of people saying, well, yeah, he still got 100 yards. But guess what? Surtain wasn't on him every single minute of him of all those receptions. So
yeah, only 71% of the time.
Surtain is the beast. Whoever you want to shut down, put him on him.
What Michael Pittman Jr. does really well is high pointing the ball. So if you don't let him get going and you throw off the timing of those things, you're going to have success early and often. So PS2, a little bit more aggressive. A little bit more jam, especially when you're playing a guy like Matt Ryan that has 9 interceptions through 4 games. He will give the ball up. He's not accurate with his passes right now. Yeah. He's still trying to figure out these wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends in that offense. And I truly believe that the Broncos are going to get many opportunities defensively on Thursday night for the whole world to see to impact this football game. So, PS2. Go out there and get you 2.
Get you 2. It's crazy because he's just in his 2nd year, but I think many players look at him like he's an all-pro player because of his preparation, one, his professionalism, his consistency, and his high level of play. He's a no-nonsense guy when he gets on the field and straps that helmet up. Between the lines, it's all business, and we can all learn from that.
Yeah, I'm glad that Steve's touched on the preparation aspect and kind of just going out there and taking care of business, because when I watch Pat Surtain, the issue is he looks like Champ Bailey. He doesn't ever look like he's stressing out there. He doesn't look like he's straining. He doesn't look like his body's ever out of control. He looks like he's running the route for the wide receiver. And in the National Football League, that's hard. I used to watch Ryan Clady all the time. Ryan Clady would be out there at left tackle. He'd kick slide, nice and smooth. It'd look great. Look at me at the right tackle position. I look like I'm going to tear a quad when I'm kicking out there, right? So it just looks a little bit different.
It was really on. It got smooth this time.
Yeah, no, it did. But when you look at Pat Surtain, you can't really look at him and say, man, I want to implement this out of his game into my game, because he's a completely different player than half the people in the National Football League. Right. So you have to look at things like his preparation and the fact that he knows what wide receivers are trying to get to, and the fact that he's able to run the routes for these wide receivers. And that all stems from being prepared and understanding what this guy's doing even before he does it.
Guys, James mentioned the matchup between the Broncos offensive line and the Colts defensive line. So let's check out the other side of that, obviously. How does the Broncos defensive line bounce back this week up against, thankfully, a slightly weaker offensive line with the Colts?
You gotta do what you do. The benefit of this is that you don't have Max Hollins that was leading the team in receptions, a Darren Waller who's an all-pro tight end, and oh, by the way, Devontae Adams is there as well. And they have a hammer in the backfield as Josh Jacobs. Hopefully Jonathan Taylor does not go, right, where now it's Hines that's coming out of the backfield. That's a smaller guy, where defensively it allows you to deliver the body blows. Mm-hmm. But this defensive line needs to be who they are. Right. Forget all the other things. Matt Ryan will hold on to the football. Matt Ryan will sit there and times just rush it. And when he does throw those balls to us, we have to catch it and make sure that we're stealing a possession. But defensive line-wise, I think that you kind of go into the mindset that you can create pressure, you have done it, and you just need to do your job. And that is it. Don't worry about anybody else's job. And we all know that Broncos country was going to be out there, and that altitude plays a little bit of an effect. And if Bronco country is there, that noise is going to affect this offense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I think that the defense has to say, hey, I know what y'all doing, but I'm not worried about you guys. We're bringing the noise every single play. And if we want to be a great football team, guess what? Our defensive line is going to have to play great. And they can't be the roller coaster. I'm going to play well this week. Oh, I'm not going to play well. I'm going to play well. I'm not play well. But I got to say, it's not just the D-line. It's the linebackers, safety. They're all tied together when you're playing the run game. The safeties have to be able to come up and feel and hit those holes. Sometimes when the linebackers get blocked, they can't be backpedaling when it's a run play, and they can't be running towards the line of scrimmage when it's a pass play. You got to get good keys and make sure that you're in the position you're supposed to be in, and then just deliver those blows.
Speaking of good keys, Steve's keys. We haven't done these in a minute. Number one key to victory.
Penalties. This has been my mantra from after the first game of the season. we have to eliminate the penalties. If we eliminate the penalties, we continue the drives, we get off the field on defense. All the things we want to do to be successful, we do those things when we minimize our penalties.
Have a clear-cut number one back and give him the ball 20 times. Allow this offensive line to move forward. I hate it as an offensive tackle where it's like, hey, you want me to go backwards against the probably best athlete that's out here at the outside linebacker position or the defensive end position. Why don't you allow me to go forward a couple times so I could deliver some body blows and soften that guy up and now have him worried about this run game. So I truly believe that we have to create an identity offensively, and that is we don't care if you know that we're running the football. We're going to go run it on you anyways, and we're going to get 4 yards a carry.
We do, and we got to have, again, that mentality that we're going to take it to you. We're going to keep taking it to you. I felt like a little bit in the Raiders game, I think their offensive line got that feeling like they're taking it to us. And we got to flip that and take it to them and, get that confidence back to where, we know we can run that ball on.
It's a mindset. It's an attitude. And when you play football, the reason why we play football, it's because it's the most barbaric sport. We love the violence. We love the physicality. There's nothing better than when you pancake somebody and 70,000 people are going crazy. Allow this offensive line to do that, because if you allow them to do that, the passing game opens up drastically, and that's how you start seeing how fast you could get to 35, so then you could rush your starters.
We're hoping we see that. Yes.
There we go. There we go. There we go. I'm getting hyped over here. Oh.
Well, hopefully we see that Thursday night as the Denver Broncos make their Prime Video debut. But we hope to see many of you in the stands for that one. Kickoff is at 6:15. For Steve Atwater, Orlando Franklin, and James Palmer, I'm Alexis Perry. Thank you so much for watching Broncos Weekend. We will see you next Friday.